Well, not always. Sometimes it's a white/rainbow colored character. I do wonder if this is going to become the new standard. Continuing right from the last episode, we open with Momoko having been apprehended off screen, and I'm not saying anything, Not as though I really have to. I mean, just let the Dojishin authors do their thing, you know? The prof went on to explain the creation of Chemical Z, and how it seemed to lead to Momoko and Mojo gaining powers. And while Momoko obviously had issues with the latter, she did end up thanking them for the superpowers, as once again, she proved how much of a freaking nerd she was throughout this episode. That and of course a bit of an airhead.
Seriously? The talking dog is the weird thing about all this?
Like seriously, what's surprising about a talking robot dog? Or have you never seen one of those disturbing little abominations? Regardless, the little Robopooch managed to sniff out the second girl. Miyako was just blissfully skipping around, ignoring the laws of gravity. Well, that is often the case when it comes to the popularity polls. Also, yeah, Momoko was kind of mixing up her magical girl and Sentai references here. I mean, granted, I did a whole video showing how there's arguably a thin line between the two toy franchises, but still, there are distinct differences between the two, which honestly just makes this whole bit even funnier, as though Momoko was unsure of which genre she should draw from. Back with Miyako, a defeated Mojo ended up crossing paths with her, though she didn't quite notice him. Well, there's one thing that's remained consistent between this and the original. Bubbles is the one who abuses Mojo the most. The big monkey tried to get some payback, but Miyako not only dodged off his attack, she also continued to not even acknowledge his very existence. On the other hand, Momoko and Peach managed to not only see him, but also sense a dark aura radiating off of him. Thus, they encouraged the mayor to give chase to the two. Mr. Mayor, should I just be a little concerned? Who am I kidding? As a politician, of course I should be. They managed to catch the simian, who I guess doesn't have many pockets in that giant cape thing of his, as he ended up dropping all of the sweets he had stolen from Momoko, which was a lot. Like, geez girl, how many different shops did you go to after school? This led to a chase between the two, with Miyako finally joining in on things. She actually tried to defend Mojo at first, but Momoko managed to convince her otherwise. Well, clearly someone has it out for poor Rafiki. Believe me, he's much better in the original than in the remake. The two double-teamed the unfairly profiled monkey and made quick work of him because, again, the girl in blue always deals the most damage to the monkey. With that, the first half of the episode ended with the girls and an unconscious Mojo heading back to the lab and some fourth wall breaking with Karu. Hey, just be glad that your color is getting representation. There are barely any greens in the Precure franchise. At the lab, they established stuff that everyone really should be aware of at this point.
Well, duh.
But yeah, one complaint I have about this episode is that at several points, it does feel like they're kind of talking in circles. It is somewhat justified because of Miyako's slow uptake, but there was also an extraneous number of flashbacks that just look really damn cheap. Like, this kind of picture-in-picture format is what I use for my no-budget YouTube videos. I get that the show is low budget, but I do think they should try and hide it a little better. At least more than me. Where the hell's the tape? Anyway, they then tried to interrogate the captured monkey. Am I the only one who just heard that monkey say a profanity? Okay, now I really want to hear the original Mojo swear.
No. You know what? That's it. I'm done. I quit.
Momoko, of course, once again tried to take back the remainder of her sweets that she wasn't going to get back. This resulted in her making the best face of this episode. Yeah, that's an expression that says she wants to cover this monkey in Gorilla Glue. During all of this, the profs managed to put together a device to deactivate their powers. Unfortunately, they did this without asking for the girls' permission, resulting in them launching a barrage of complaints. Thankfully, one article of their transformation remained on them, their belts, which surprisingly, the Sentai nerd didn't really notice at first. Then again, by this point in the franchise, they had mostly done away with the belt bucklers and had switched to more cell phones and wrist objects. Again, big missed opportunity to make a roleplay item out of these things. Hell, they could have even included a nifty little voice activation feature because as it turned out, Peach saying the team's name was also required to activate the compacts. Thus, we got the requisite once per episode transformation, and some of my commenters have pointed out I should probably talk about the transformation music, and yeah, it's really good. While I'll admit I'm not the biggest fan of techno, I will say it does a good job reflecting the general personalities of each of the girls. Momoko's being more energetic, Miyako's being more laid back and bubbly, and Kaoru's being the most aggressive with much more pronounced beats. In general, this show's OST, while no technical masterpiece, is still one of the most fun soundtracks I've ever heard, and I do recommend checking it out. On that note, the prof tried to explain everything with techno babble, and also named the team the Powerpuff Girls Z. Personally, I prefer their original name.
The whoop-ass girls were born!
I'm not even kidding, that was Greg's original concept, go look it up. During all of this, Mojo tried to escape after hearing that they had created a device that would turn him back into a regular zoo animal. Sure enough, he managed to slip out of his ropes while the girls were busy testing out Miyako's powers of Squirtle, bubble attack! She tried to use those same suds to recapture the monkey, and when it didn't work... Yeah, forget the buttercup of this team, Miyako was the closest to her original counterpart. Speaking of whom, as Mojo was making his escape, he ended up running into Kaoru, who still wasn't in a good mood after being forced into wearing a skirt. Oh, I see someone's a fan of underrated Masami Obari anime. With that, the episode ended with him blasting off again, and the final member of this trio meeting up with the rest of her team. Much like the first episode, this second outing was meant to be more of an introduction to one of the core trio of this show, in this case Miyako, and yeah, she had a fun little introduction, didn't she? We got a decent idea of her character, being mostly carefree, and yet still being thoughtful of others when she had the time to notice them. There were still some budget issues here, more so than even the first episode, but not too much that it distracted me from the fun. This episode did also try to pull off some world building, which, while not bad, especially learning more about the transformation trinkets, a lot of it was also stuff that most viewers could probably infer for themselves and therefore wasn't really needed. Though for the show itself, it was probably needed to fill in runtime, as unfortunately, not only did a lot of these flashbacks look cheap, they also felt rather intrusive, with some of it even coming from this same episode just minutes earlier. Now, I won't hold this that much against this show, as I do understand its circumstances, sharing its animation budget with Splash Star at the time, and much the fun writing did make up for it. Mojo's quote-unquote chase of Miyako was hilarious and a little bit more fun than even his stuff with Momoko, though she was also still pretty entertaining, especially her rather on-the-nose Sentai references. And of course, the two non-sister characters interacting was fun, so adding a third and final member to the mix will be even more fun. Ironically though, I don't think this tomboy will be as deadly as this wand-smashing little psycho. I'll try to put the finishing touches of the first part of my Gold Prince review by the end of this week, hopefully. And as I've said, it should be good timing to go with Tropical Rouge, which will start this week, and have the same character designer. Look forward to all of that, and until then though, farewell for now my friends, and... Ooh, would you look at all these pretty bubbles? Wait, bubbles? Everyone duck!